Welcome to another episode of the Sports Business Leaders Podcast. My name is Justin Titchenell. Sports Business Leaders is a community event series for innovators, founders, and executives in sports to connect, share ideas, and explore potential collaborations. On the podcast, we feature key community members, and today we're really excited to feature Josh Hansen. Thanks for coming on, Josh.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. So Josh is the Chief Revenue Officer at Rolling Insights. And Rolling Insights is a company making data accessible, fast, and reliable for everyone. Now, they have two verticals in the business with their Sportswise platform, which gives fantasy players powerful no-code analytics, to data feeds, which delivers real-time sports data for iGaming and DFS. And Rolling Insights with both verticals is changing the game. So Josh, Rolling Insights obviously operates both as the fantasy sports product and as its sports data provider. How did the company evolve to offer both? And what were some of your key learnings as you built both of those verticals?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. Like we didn't really set out to become a data provider. And so, probably 5 years ago, we decided, bit of background of Rolling Insights, we're a product division of a consulting firm called Rolling Wave. So we do a lot of project management, product development. We, work a lot with agencies who then contract us out to help deliver their projects to large enterprise Fortune 500 companies. And so a couple of years ago, we decided, you know what, we want to build something, we want to build a product. And we looked at a couple of different industries and we settled on sports. And a couple of reasons why, my background, I come from a sports background. I graduated from school 20 years ago, worked at the Score when it was still a TV station, went to covers.com after that. And then found myself in the digital marketing space and consulting space. And then our founder as well comes from a product background too. He's built an e-signature company in the real estate sector, exited that. And so we looked and we said, okay, well, we're sports fans. He's a big fantasy guy. My background is sports. We have a couple of others on our team, who are sports fans as well. And with sort of how the industry was changing at the time, PASPA had been repealed. We said there's going to be an opportunity in this space and we want to build a product to kind of be a part of that. And so we settled on Sportwise, and so that would allow users to import their Yahoo, their Fantrax leagues into our platform, build personalized data sets using data, and think of it as Excel on steroids. That's what we like to call it. But as we were going through that process, we needed a data provider. And so this, back in 2020, there were only a handful out there. And so we reached out to some of the big names. One of them didn't get back to us. Another one, the price just kept going up every time we talked to them. And so as a startup, we couldn't really find that, economical option in the marketplace. So we happened to come across a company in Minneapolis, Minnesota, called Reliant Stats. They were, a data provider, pretty small one. Had a couple of customers, and their pricing worked really well for us at that stage of our growth. So, unfortunately, the pandemic hit, and sports ground to a halt. A lot of their customers weren't really interested in continuing to pay for data because nothing was happening. And so they were going to shut down. And we said, well, you know what? Can we buy your IP? Because if we don't have your data, we don't have data for Sportwise. Unless we again go to some of the larger outfits out there and pay top dollar for that data. So they agreed to it. We acquired their IP and started to migrate their customers and their code over to our backends, and started to use that data to continue to power Sportwise. And so through that process, we said, you know what, there's probably an opportunity here in the market for us to serve early stage customers, or mid-market companies who, maybe some of the big guys don't want to or don't have time to serve. And especially with the growth happening in the industry at that time and even now, we're seeing that trend continue. We're seeing a lot of solopreneurs or co-founders building products, whether it's in DFS, whether it's AI modeling or projections, content sites, and they're looking to save costs on data so that they can apply that to other areas of their business, development, sales, marketing, so on and so forth. And so that's where we've really found our niche is, helping those companies, helping those founders grow, while also serving some of the other mid-market clients, which, you know, I think 5 years ago, we probably didn't have that idea in our head, right? We've been very fortunate to make a lot of great friends within the community, just through industry trade shows, online communities, things like that. And so it's been, a lot of fun. And I think for us, each day we're hitting new milestones, we're, exploring new features and releases for our products, both on the data feed side and Sportwise side. And so, I think we're getting to a point now where, the Rolling Insights division of our company will soon be self-sufficient. And then so that will be, exciting milestone for us. But, yeah, we've had a lot of fun in the last couple of years. We've learned a lot. And I think, the biggest thing for us was just, being able to pivot a little bit once we face that adversity, right? There was a lot of, well, how do we, okay, well, we may lose our data provider, so what do we do? We explored different options. We could either shut down, we could acquire them, we could go somewhere else. And so when we looked at the financials, we said, yeah, we can potentially make this into its own business. And at worst case scenario, we get 2 more years of runway of data to power Sportwise, because that's what it would have cost us anyways, going with the big providers. So ultimately, it worked well in our favor, and it worked out well. And so yeah, that's kind of why we're here today.
That's great. Thanks, Josh. And it's great to have you on the show, especially being over here in Eastern Canada and calling in from New Brunswick. And I actually lived in British Columbia and Vancouver for 4 years, and honestly went through this phase where I thought I was going to stay in Canada forever. So love the country, love Canadians, and it's just great to have you on the show. I think first Canadian guest we've ever had. So thanks again for being here. Um, I love the context and the background in working with early stage founders and entrepreneurs and startups. And we built sports business leaders out of a casual meetup in a group that was mostly early stage sports tech founders, and then we've added into the community investors, executives, all types of people. We've met some really amazing people in sports, but even in the first question, you talked about a lot of your work with early stage founders in sports, and along the way, 2 3 years ago, you guys started the Breakaway Accelerator, and now you're working with 18 companies, and you have a 12-month programming and different aspects where you support them. Love to hear more about what you're doing with Breakaway and how you're serving some of these really cool use cases. You were telling us about the youth fantasy product, and we're fascinated by this. So yeah, tell us more about Breakaway and what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, Breakaway is, it's kind of a baby of mine. I'll be honest. It's exactly what you said. It really is a program that we've built to help, early stage companies get access to our data, at an affordable cost. So we do provide them with a discount for 12 months as they're part of our Breakaway program, our Breakaway Accelerator program. But beyond just, the discounting, we try to put a lot of, programming around that as well. So I'd like to preface this with applicants to say we're not a Zero Labs, we're not a Techstars, we're not going to fly you out to New Brunswick or to Calgary, right, and then grill you over your business plan. But what we will do is try to connect you with other individuals in our network, to help you solve the problems that you're trying to solve, right? And so, because we were in their shoes 5 years ago, when we were looking for a data provider, we know sort of the challenges that those early stage companies are going through, not only from a data standpoint, but from like an industry standpoint. Do I need licensing in different states? Should I build and should I have an LLC? Should I go for look for investors? And so we try to connect them with others in our network to help answer those questions if we can. But we also put together various programming. So we have a monthly fireside chat where we bring in different speakers from within the industry to share their knowledge, talk about trends and what's happening, talk about their story. Last month we had our demo day. So every 6 months we'll have a demo day where different participants can demo what they're working on. That went really well. One of our companies that's part of the program now, as Jake alluded to, he's building a fantasy football app, but his demographic or target demographic is kids, and that sounds it sounds kind of funny when you first say it, but he's a school teacher, and so what he sees is an opportunity to help kids improve on their reading. And so through this platform, kids will earn multipliers on their teams the more articles that they read. So if my son has a team and he picks Josh Allen, and he reads 3 articles, well, now each touchdown pass that Josh Allen throws could be worth 7.5, right? So that's kind of the idea behind it. So we're seeing some very unique use cases coming out of that program. We have another individual who was, probably one of our earliest applicants and participants in that program. He's a documentary filmmaker by trade, had an idea on, this product that he wanted to build, and, eventually was able to find developers to build out his product. And the name of his company is called Loser Ball. And so essentially, instead of picking the 2 teams who are going to do the best that given week, you pick the worst teams. And so he's kind of carved out this white space in the market where it's fun to lose, right? It's okay if you pick the worst team, and that's the goal of his product. And he went through our program. And he's eventually gone on to secure some funding and work with some really key players in the industry to help take his product to the next level. So this upcoming NFL season, he'll be implementing real money gaming, which will be a huge step for him, and then now to be able to monetize this platform. So those are some of the types of applicants that we have coming through. And then, additionally to that, we try to partner with other companies in the space to help them. So we have an agreement with a law firm out of Texas. They specialize in iGaming, fantasy sports, mergers and acquisitions. And so each new participant will get 30 minutes free consult with them to ask, any question they have. How should I structure my corporation? Do I need licensing in this state? What should I consider when hiring, contractors or offshore developers? So again, trying to provide them with as many tools as possible out of the gate to help them get rolling. And then we are also in the process of building out our Discord community. So we'll be, sharing more thought leadership pieces within our Discord channel, but also trying to foster some collision amongst our members, because that's one of the things that we really see too, is a lot of these individuals are, again, they're solo preneurs, they're maybe co-founders, and that can be a lonely game. So having others who are in kind of the same space as you, and sort of doing the same thing as you, trying to build a product, that can go a long way in just being able to share that tribal knowledge. And hey, what did you do for this? Or do you have a payment provider? Or how did you tackle this? Or yeah, we should partner and talk about rev share and anything else under the sun. So that's something else that we're actively trying to do more of this year. But yeah, it's been, for me personally, it's been a lot of fun because I get to see these companies grow, and I get to see these people take their ideas, take their, kind of their dreams, for lack of a better term, and turn them into reality. Like we have some guys that they're working corporate 9 to 5, and this is their escape plan, right? They want to build a product so that they can leave that 9 to 5 rat race and then focus on something that they enjoy doing, and they get a lot of yeah, they just have a lot of fun with. So that's a bit about the Breakaway Accelerator Program. And yeah, it's it's something that we we're continually trying to build on and trying to understand where we take it to, right? I think that's one of the big things as well is, what happens when somebody completes that 12 months. Are there other programs that hopefully they can now be funneled into? And so those are some of the conversations that we're having internally.
Yeah, no, Josh, this is very interesting, and I think it's really unique how you're running basically an accelerator based on your experience, and you were in that position just 3, 4, 5 years ago, just like you were saying. And it's also amazing. That's what Jake and I's mantra is for you to be able to connect people to the resources that they need. Because with the sports business leaders, that's what we do all the time. Um, Now, obviously, you have your finger on the pulse of the industry and what all these other companies are doing. Now, a big thing that we've seen obviously is AI. So, how do you see sports data and AI shaping the future of fantasy sports, betting, and the broader sports tech industries as a whole?
So one of our customers is using AI in a natural language model type of approach where you can type in how did Josh Allen do last year against the NFC West or AFC West or basically any type of prompt like that, and it will return that information similar to a chat GPT. But then you can visualize that using charts. You can drill down based on was it a dome stadium versus field, and was it raining versus sunny. So they're using all of our data to sort of power that experience to users. And I think I think there are other companies out there that are trying to do similar things as well. But definitely, I see a big opportunity, at least from the data side, for us to be sort of that provider of the raw data to then power their platforms. Outside of sort of the data side of things, I mean, some of the companies that we see out there, they're using AI to, automatically track player movements on the field, right? And then, pushing that into a data point that customers can consume and use. We see a lot of usage in coaching or injury prevention, right? And one of our one of our early Breakaway Accelerator participants actually, they were called the fantasy doctors. They were hoping, they were a group of PhD or a group of physicians, and they were hoping to be able to use AI to help with some of that injury prevention, um, you know, uh, I guess prediction. And ultimately, they weren't able to crack that nut. But I think you'll probably see more of that as well. Is companies building a model that then they can say, yeah, if Anthony Davis, he's he's been hurt the last couple games, and you should really keep an eye on him. Maybe we need to sit out the next three, or maybe this type of injury takes a lot longer to heal based on the data that we have. You know, there's another startup that I was speaking with last week, and they are building personalized content using AI, and they're going to be using or they're going to be delivering it through automating podcasts, for example. So that's I think another area that you'll start to see is sort of that personalization, that automation. We did have a conversation with another company as well, and they were planning to sort of automate um, the process of a video being created, so an avatar video being created, and then automatically posting that on TikTok or YouTube with the day's, DFS picks, right? So they would be using data to then generate some predictions on their side, and then they would have another, component to that where an AI avatar is being generated. It looks real, right? I mean, you could tell, but I think as AI gets better and better, it will be harder to decipher that. But ultimately, they were looking to sort of automate that whole process of like getting that data, make the predictions, building the content. And I think you'll probably see a lot more of that as well. So it's I mean, it's a bit of the not the industrial revolution with AI, but I mean, I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what's to come. At least, I mean, overall, but even in the sports space as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Josh. Love the conversation around AI, and a lot of people are intimidated by by AI, and or are over AI'd out with applications, especially, a lot of people took their startup idea and then just put AI into the deck, and that was their raise strategy. But the reality is that AI is not going to change the world and take your opportunity. It's a person or a team or a startup using AI that can then do a five-person team could do what 500 people could do previously. And so it's really important to be talking about it and integrating it into whatever you're doing going forward. A couple friends here that I think you're working with. It sounds like you were talking to Chris Shreve from Staked AI with the personal
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
yes, and audio, really amazing what they're doing. We've known Chris for a couple months, and really cool. He announced the position over at Stake AI, moved over there. Honestly, just in the last couple months. So really cool that just through context we know who you're talking about. And then another friend that I know you have a touch point with. A lot of people know that I show up to at least the sports calls with like a big logo wall behind me of like the brands that come to the meetups or people that have invested in or people that we have relationships with. And people are like, oh, are those all your sponsors? It's like, no, this is like what the community is. And one of the coolest events, this has actually never happened before, Josh, but on our first call, you pointed one of the logos and said, what do you guys know about Chata AI? And I said, wow, we know a lot. And so one of our friends and a community mainstay person, someone who's introduced us to probably, with a chain reaction, more powerful people than anyone else. We met Vince Rizzuto from Philly Sports Trips, and then Jesse Wines from Wines Creative, and then Gail Saunders from the Fourth and Drawn podcast. But all of this comes back to Tony Treziak, who is an investor in Chata AI and an advisor. We're actually going up to New York Stock Exchange with him next week. So love to hear more about how you're working with Chata. And I know their CEO is over in Alberta. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier on our prep call. But yeah, tell us what you have to do with Chata and how you're working with them.
Yeah, and that that one's kind of an interesting story too, because Tony had reached out to us, filled out I think just a web form, and kind of had asked about our data. So we had a couple conversations with him, and yeah, I mean you're right, like great guy, super knowledgeable, very compelling story, and through our conversation we got to talking about Chata AI, and so turns out that Chata AI is, headquartered in Calgary, Alberta, where we're also headquartered. And so through that conversation, and Tony and Chata ended up becoming clients, and they're using our data. And you heard me reference the natural language model client before. That's them. That's their Sports Alpha program. But through that, we got a chance to meet their founder. Very interesting guy as well. Comes from a very entrepreneurial background, and um, we were actually fortunate enough to have him speak at one of our events in Calgary. So we used to host a sports and analytic meetup. We don't do that anymore, but Kelly was kind enough to come and speak to that, and talk about Sports Alpha and kind of talk about Chata. And between him and Tony, we weren't really sure, who these guys were, but now, we've been able to develop those relationships, and even just, I think, through Tony and following him on LinkedIn, you get to see, everything that he's sharing, and, the stories that he's telling, and, the community that, he has. And, you can't help but want to be a part of that. And so, for us, we're obviously powering Chata or Sports Alpha with our data. They're, I think, running probably 5 or 6 sports now. I think they're doing NCAA football as well. NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, and yeah, NCAA football. But it'd be very interesting to see where they go, because I think they have a lot of smart people behind them. They obviously have a great network, and we've also been able to introduce them to a few folks in our network as well to hopefully try to get them that further exposure. So again, we're another great Canadian sports tech story, and there's lots of those as well. Quarter four, out of Toronto, they were another great company that eventually was acquired. But I think just through this community, it's so small that I mean, you already said, Jake, you knew exactly who I was talking about with Chris and Staked AI. So, the community itself is so small at this point that everyone just wants to help one another and see each other grow. And I think, that's something that is just totally unique and refreshing compared to other industries that I've worked in.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that sentiment there, Josh. Any last words you want to share with the audience today?
I mean, I kind of mentioned it just a second ago that this industry, while some of us are competitors, I think there is a lot of there's a lot of friendships as well, and friendly competition. But I think also we want to see each other succeed, and I think it's still very early on in the growth of this industry that we have the opportunity to help each other out, and we're able to reach out to our network to say, hey, I have a problem, or somebody I know has a problem. Do you know anyone who they could talk to? Or, hey, so and so just lost their job. They're a writer, and AI is now, kind of taking their job. Other opportunities that you might know where, they can help an early stage company maybe, do some marketing in exchange for equity or some rev share. So, I think it really is, that opportunity for the industry to grow together, and having a platform like this, and obviously what you guys are doing too, I think just goes to show the type of people that are a part of this. And we feel very fortunate to also be part of that community too.
Absolutely. And that's really the great thing about the community is just sports, sports community as a whole is that everybody's so collaborative and willing to help. And yeah, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head, Josh. So, what's the best way for the audience to stay in touch with you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can also search, Rolling Insights. Chat GPT will also come up with results if you look for us there. So, also, just we're on every social media channel there is. So either, between Rolling Insights, Sportwise, or data feeds, you should be able to find us.
Awesome. Josh, really appreciate you being on the show today. Thanks again, and best of luck to you in the future.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.